Disclaimer: the views and opinions expressed on Nerdy Talk do not reflect those of Anime Herald. Due to strong language, listener discretion is advised. Now sit back and enjoy the show. Good evening, everybody. It's time for Nerdy Talk. I'm Old Man Mike Ferreira, and I'm joined by the following people.
Dorian Chadwick.
Matt Brown, who is not an old man or something.
He's in the middle. I'm the youngest. We all know it.
I'm in the middle like Malcolm.
I'm just making a joke because I hit 30 a couple days ago, so...
Yeah. You're even older than I am, because I didn't hit 30 recently.
You're 26 forever. We all know that. Anyway, since our last recording, it's been a couple weeks. We've had a lot going on. AX was last week, and it's just generally been a few high-profile releases and news bits that came through. But before we get into that, the new anime series started up just about a week ago, so I kind of want to talk to you guys, see what you're watching and what you're really kind of excited for this season.
Well, it sounds like what you're saying is only one series started up soon. The new anime series.
Right.
So what is it? We all want to know.
Well, yeah, I want to hear what you guys are watching first.
We know you have inside knowledge. Spill it.
Tell us now.
Yes, there's a brand new remake of Cardcaptor Sakura coming next week. But don't tell anyone. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, why would Clamp do that when they can just make an entirely new show that has entirely the same characters?
Ouch. Ice burn.
Well, I mean, if they're making a new show, then they already made a new manga with what I just said at least 2 years ago. All we know is that Mokuno will be there.
Well,
of course.
Makuna is a universal constant.
You can't
Doesn't help that she's an insert of one of the writers.
You can't have a Clamp show without Mokonut.
Exactly.
Whether he's white, black, brown, yellow, green, purple, or red.
Or is she?
That too.
Alright, I guess I'll get...
So we've pretty much covered Clamp for the year. Next.
Alright, joking aside, as we all know, Sailor Moon started last week, which was like the big one for the season. I'm calling it now. That's going to be like the one that just dominates discussion for a while. Basically, it's a reboot of Sailor Moon. It's completely, new, shiny, approved by Takeuchi herself. And the first episode, it was Sailor Moon episode 1. Really. It's kind of hard to really say anything different. If you've seen the original series, you've seen this episode.
Yo, dog. I hear you like Sailor Moon and your Sailor Moon. Personally, I had never seen anything from Sailor Moon before, so this was completely new to me. And I understand that. I understand why people like it. It's got a good sense of humor. The characters are, sort of, well, they have their purpose and not much else, but still, it all fits together pretty well.
Yeah, definitely. To be fair, I really did enjoy this. I did enjoy what I saw of Crystal. It really felt like an old 90s show, which I think is a great thing. It had that sense of, that goofball zaniness and humor that just, it works to the show's favor, considering you don't see that very much anymore.
Yeah.
And
I get the feeling that some people in the industry want it to come back, and we'll talk about that a little bit more later. But I think Sailor Moon coming back and having a reboot is timely in a lot of ways.
Definitely.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. It'll really be timely when they announce a Dragon Ball Z reboot or something. Then it'll be timely.
Oh, we already got that. We got Kai.
But Kai,
it'll happen again.
Same show.
Yeah, I know.
It's a
that's what a reboot is.
No, but this is like, we're just gonna keep the same exact show, but let's just cut let's cut the talky parts out and make it closer to the manga. Still takes 5 episodes for a planet to be destroyed, but whatever, tune in next week for another episode of Dragon Ball Z Kai.
See,
Okay.
you guys just saved our entire listener base. How many episodes are watching?
Just think about all you're learning about food items and food related things.
I enjoyed the first episode too. I thought that was it was actually very good. I vaguely remember the first episode, so it did cover the same tracks, but I still enjoyed it. Still pretty funny.
I really liked some of the physical comedy bits that were there that weren't in the original. Like at the beginning, instead of Usagi just running out, she actually just trips and falls down the stair on her ass. And then the mom just looks over. It's like, "You okay?"
Like, no, I'm not okay.
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
It's like, would you stop doing that every day?
exactly.
Speaking of Dragon Ball Z, when are they going to admit that it's a cooking manga?
When there's a restaurant.
They actually had a couple of cafes.
Oh yeah, that's right. How do I keep forgetting this stuff?
Yeah, it's like, bitch, I'm lunch. You're just a vegetable. I'm going to totally destroy you.
Pretty much.
I own you. You're part of me. Wait. This is confusing. I didn't hate it. So, hey, that's a ringing endorsement for me. Because, I expect that I've seen pretty much everything, well, almost everything that Magical Girl genre has to offer at this point. Even though at times in this podcast I seem to be unable to distinguish between Magical Girl shows and things that are not. But that said, I have watched shows that are quintessential Magical Girl. And this show is, hey, I actually like it. So that's as ringing an endorsement as I can give.
I mean, if I could only have one real complaint though, the new series, while it does look really nice, a lot of the characters just seem to lack that personality, the general sheer character, for lack of a better word, that you did see in the first one. Like, they just aren't as expressive. The animation's a bit on the stiff side, but it was enjoyable otherwise.
And animation stuff, it can get better, and it probably will get better.
Oh yeah, this is one they'll probably clean up in the Blu-rays too.
And I heard a similar thing on the Ancast that they broadcast live from AX. Zach in particular pretty much talked about how the animation was stiff for Sailor Moon and how it was by design because the whole concept of the show and the manga is built around fashion models and fashion in general.
Right, so it's really built around getting those perfect shots as opposed to being utilitarian.
Yeah. So being stiff is what fashion models do.
But the opening song actually showed some promise with their attacks looking fluid and nice, and it's like, oh wow, when they start doing their attacks and stuff, it's going to be bad ass.
I really did like that opening sequence. It was just gorgeous. The opening song is it's no Moonlight Densetsu, but it is still catchy. It's fun. It's poppy. It definitely works for the reboot.
Well, and also the magical transformation. It's long-ish, but it's still I think it does what it needs to.
Yeah. The only thing
it's part of what makes those shows what they are.
Yeah. My complaint about the transformation sequences is that there's some very obvious CGI there. Like, they don't even try to hide it. It's kind of clunky and kludgy looking.
Yeah.
I don't have a problem with them not trying to hide CGI. It's better than average, I would say, for an anime, because they tend to have seriously low budgets, and most of the CG sequences are pretty fucking horrible. Excuse my French, and they don't fit with the overall animation at all, and it's like, all these things that you could say about CG and anime. It just doesn't work very well. Even good studios or even studios that tend to have bigger budgets, like Bones and Production IG, the CG that they commission for those shows and movies tends to be, you can tell they try, but they still don't do a very good job of integrating with there isn't much hand drawn, but the portions of the greater portions of the anime that appear hand drawn are really, I guess they're still hand drawn for the stenciling, but they're digitally painted these days.
Yeah. And it usually doesn't meld well. When here it's by itself, it's not in the background or in sync with 2D animation. It's by itself, so it's not that bad. The transformation, it's not as risque as it is in the original series, which is somewhat good, yet it's almost like kind of boring. But it's not bad, but it's not risque. It's not bad. Once again, it's one of those things that maybe it changes later on.
Definitely.
Or they differentiate it.
A lot of the transformation shots are kind of like that. Like they don't really some of them are a little bit more like they'll like fuzz out the parts where the girl's actually naked and sort of like donning new clothes or whatever, but they tend to be pretty PG as far as that goes. And I'm not complaining about that. I think it's the appropriate way to do it.
Fair. All right, moving on. I guess we can just talk about what else we're currently watching. Like, any other new shows you picked up this season, or aside from Sailor Moon, or?
Well, I've only maybe picked up one other show, and that's Sword Art Online 2 for now. I could pick up more because I know a lot of them just started, but they started while I was finishing up other stuff. So I'll get to those eventually. But Sword Art Online 2 was the only other show I picked up. And after watching the first episode, I'm kind of intrigued. Everyone was disappointed about the second half of Sword Art Online, as it wasn't they didn't think it was as heavy or as dark as that first half where people were dying in the game.
What second half?
Versus the second half where it was just like, oh, I could take over your souls and control your minds, which is still pretty effed up. But it wasn't dying. To a lot of folks, it didn't seem natural enough.
I think people paid more attention to, oh, hey, my sister wants to fuck me.
Yeah, that too. That too. Sister, cousin.
It's like, how do I get out of this one? Have to live with the bitch.
But yeah. Well, this one is a bit more intriguing. It has, there's death, but death is death, but it's not like, oh, you get died in this game. No, it's if you get killed by this certain person with this certain gun, you're dead. Everyone else, you're fine. So it's going to be an intriguing mystery. So I'm kind of excited for that.
I can see that. I have mixed feelings about that show. I also watched the first episode, and I don't know. It is intriguing, like you say. There's one problem I have with it, at least so far, and I hope they rectify this somehow. That Asuna is just like there as his girlfriend, and they're talking about stuff, and he doesn't even reveal the sort of intriguing thing that's going on, and she's just like, I don't know, dead weight.
Yeah, not like she was
in the plot, and in the first like 13 or 14 episodes of the TV series, she was like one of the things that I loved about SAO up until the point that up until the sister fucking arc started.
The fairy arc.
Yeah, that doesn't make it sound better. Was that she was an equal partner in how successful they were, and I really appreciated that. And so far with the new show, it seems like she is being left out of it, and I don't like that at all.
I mean, yeah, I think that's kind of a complaint. Like you said, they might work her in, but in some way, I think that maybe it'll explain later on that maybe she doesn't want anything to do with video game type stuff anymore after having to go through what she's been through, which is explainable. But they should have mentioned that, or at least alluded to that in the first episode of this.
Yeah, it's like the show is progressively trying to defang her. The second half of the show, or the second half of the first season, which I would really like to ignore as part of it. She was like a damsel in distress the whole time, and like that was the whole purpose of the second half, was just like, you got to save your girlfriend, blah blah blah, and she is completely helpless and blah blah.
For the most part.
Yeah, and I really hope that this second show does not make that mistake. I think Asuna is part of what made the first show good, an integral part of what made the first show good. Because she's obviously not a pushover.
And I have no comment because this is actually next on my to watch list. I just didn't get to it in time for the recording.
Oh,
I know, I'm terrible. No, I was watching such masterpieces as Persona 4: The Golden Animation.
Oh,
now,
God.
Before we go
Tell us more, Mike. What did you think?
Before we go any further, I'm going to say this. Fuck that show. Fuck Persona 4. And fuck everything about it. Oh, dear God. I'm sitting here making fun of Persona 4 on a podcast. I'm going to get crucified.
We need
Dear
details.
fucking God.
Jesus. We need Jesus. Bring Jesus.
Yeah, I think you need to bring the full weight of your rage on this.
All right.
That was good while it lasted.
No,
Here, I can almost like hear your rage tempering right now.
I'm going to say this. This show is unmitigated garbage. What they do is they assume that you've had some exposure to Persona 4. Whether it's through the games, through the previous anime series, through the movies. They assume that you are a devoted fan, which a lot of people aren't. They just sit there. They say, okay, this is pretty much New Game Plus. You're on your own, fucker. And to be fair, Persona 4, while not as good as the godly Persona 2, is a series with a great reach. I mean, this is one that's become a cash cow, where they milk those odious, splurting tits till they are ready to burst. I mean, they've got merchandise, they've got toys, they've got spin-off dungeon games, they got a friggin' rhythm dancing game. It's just, this is their cash cow. They're gonna milk that thing until it friggin' dies.
Excuse me. You mentioned the godly Persona 2.
Yes.
I have to ask. You're really referring to Innocent Sin Persona 2, right? Not Persona 2 Eternal Punishment.
Right. Because Innocent Sin is fantastic.
Okay. I had to, there were two Persona 2s. I had to ask.
Eternal Punishment was fantastic as well, though.
I'm not saying it wasn't, but Innocent Sin is the more elusive of the bunch, and generally the better regarded, I would say.
I actually have an import copy of that, plus I have it on my PSP. The PSP one, they got around a Hitler issue by giving Hitler a pair of sunglasses. It's fucking hilarious. They just call him like the Fuhrer, and he has these like aviator shades, and that's it. But anyway, basically, Persona 4: The Golden Animation is...
I think you mean his Blitzkrieg shades.
Yes.
Really?
But yeah, I mean, basically, series opens with the main character, Yu Narukami. Yeah, it's funny because his name's Yu, just like you, right? Just kill me now. Anyway, he arrives in town, and they go right away introducing a new character, which I have no problem with. He drops his letter, she picks it up, he walks off, and that's it. Anyway, after that, his caretaker, ride, and apparent love interest arrives. Dojima comes in with his daughter in tow. Dojima is one of the weirdest person because the first thing he says to you, who is like 15 years old, is, "You look much more handsome than your photo." Now,
What?
For most people, are gonna say, "Oh, that's a reference to the game." I said, "Oh my god, this is gonna turn very bad very quickly."
It already did.
It really did.
You were at that 5 minutes ago.
Oh god, yeah. So basically, they go back to the apartment. Nanako, Dojima's daughter, shows that she's capable of doing more than hiding and cowering from new people by singing her favorite song, which is the jingle of the local department store. Yay, consumerism! And that's it. It flashes to the next day at school. And to do these transitions, it uses the same sliding calendar screen from the games. It's so freaking lazy. But I digress.
Yeah,
Well,
you had me at sings the jingle of a department store.
Yeah, that's words can't describe how stupid some of this really is. How blatantly fucking stupid it is. But yeah, so it just goes from event to event. There's no real cohesiveness. It just feels like they're stacking events one after another. The humor isn't funny. All it is really something happens, person makes this googly face, says something stupid, and then maybe an effect appears on the screen next to their head. It's the most base form of comedy. There's no timing. There's no pacing. It really is cringeworthy at points. One thing, listen, they end up in the TV world. Yep, they get sucked into a fucking TV, which is basically a foggy world with chalk outlines on the ground. So basically, it's Silent Hill. So, hey, Konami, why don't you call them, get this show off the air, because I am tired of hearing of it. And before you kill me, that is a joke, listeners.
You say Silent Hill, but just because it's a TV and not a wardrobe doesn't mean it's not Narnia.
Oh,
That is true.
that's
But-
even worse.
Yeah. The next 3 minutes are consumed by its extended walking montage. Literally, they just shows him walking through this fog world, following a shadow to an apartment, which looks like a murder scene. Blood's all over the walls. The furniture's all out of order. Which you'd expect something to happen there. It doesn't. She, one of the characters, they just throw at the viewer and expect him to already fucking know. Here's something. And Kuma pokes his head in. Oh, I hate Kuma. Kuma's an annoying little fuckhead. He just has everything about him, from his voice to his manners to his dialogue. It just grates on me. I want to reach through the screen. I wish I could have the main character's power to reach the screen and just punch this smug little fucker.
Damn.
Oh dear God, I hated him.
Damn, Michael, I didn't know you felt this way.
Hey, you told me to let the rage out.
Your fault.
I could go on, but anyway.
I did tell you to do that.
Yes, you did. You were like
But-
Robert Downey Jr.
You know,
Persona 4 is
Yeah.
like, we have this, and it's
But,
like,
I mean-
well, I have Mike.
it's like Pandora's box. I didn't know how deeply the rage ran.
I loathe this show. Everything about it. Alright, I can't say that. There was one part I really liked. It was the 3-minute sequence after the end credits, which was a short slice of life sequence with you and the new character Marie, because Marie as a character is supposedly someone that she's an amnesiac, so she doesn't know much of anything outside of what she's already seen.
See, now you're tapping into my rage font.
Yup.
Amnesiacs? Fucking lazy.
Oh, it is. But yeah, I did like the sequence with you and Marie, but I can't remember.
The only
her name.
way it would be more lazy is if it was an amnesiac time traveler.
I don't think she's a time traveler, which Thank God. But anyway, um,
That may be redundant. I mean,
yeah,
even time travelers can basically make anything they want to up because obviously nobody else knows. Even if they believe that they're from the future, they don't know what they experienced. So the time traveler can basically make anything up. Wow, that actually sounds fantastic for a plot. An amnesiac time traveler, somebody that just makes stuff up, and everybody else does what they say because they're from the future.
I will say the sequence between you and Marie was cute. They did a good job of that. They really did took. I mean, this is what the show needed. They took that segment and just used it to build the characters and build the world a bit. I mean, it was the only part of the show that didn't reek of laziness and cash grabs, which is such a shame. Because I've always said Persona 4 was a bad game with a story that would work great for an anime. And they proved me wrong. They proved me so wrong.
It's like you wait to be wrong and then you pounce.
No, I mean this one here, I actually had some hope for it, but
yeah, you are a Persona fan, and a lot of people are. I can see that.
But the thing is, I'm not your typical Persona fan because most people generally like Persona 4. The one that people don't like is from the earlier set, like the first one. I mean,
well, you gotta ask. You're a long time Persona fan, and you loathe Persona 4, so you have to wonder. At least I'm curious is how. Like, long-time fans are probably the most relevant, the corpus of information here. What do most long-time fans feel about Persona 4? Because, it's like a whole bunch of new fans being in love with Persona 4 is about the same thing as a whole bunch of people slightly younger than me being in love with Final Fantasy VII. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I'm just saying that Final Fantasy VII was a definite divide between older fans and newer fans.
that is true. And you're really seeing that with the Persona series, because it seemed like Persona 4, I mean, I can't speak for all Persona fans, but this is just me talking. I liked the first 3 Persona games. The thing that I thought was the absolute weakest in Persona 3, though, was the whole social link system, where they make you do all these like life simmy things to just move things forward and get your personas. Like you're be able to make stronger personas. On paper, it's not a bad idea, but in execution, it just felt very clumsy, and you'd spend hours upon hours grinding, and you wouldn't be sure if you'd even get to the end of a quest chain. So it just felt like work to me.
So it's easy to see that the people who designed this game are more socially inept than pretty much anybody playing it.
Exactly. And the problem with Persona 4 was they really doubled down on it. Like, which is a shame because there were improvements. The gameplay was better. The dungeons were better, but that whole social aspect just killed it for me because it felt like you were just segregating off the action in the dungeon portion instead of creating one cohesive world. And it didn't work for me. I thought it was just very hand-fisted and poorly handled. Then you had the characters who were just fairly annoying. I'm not gonna lie. So
it really does come down to the gameplay. Like the old adventure games, like I'm thinking Zelda in particular. A lot of people didn't like the second Zelda game, but it gave people exactly what they want. Just like this stream of adventure, and you didn't really have to after that there was actual interaction with people, and you had to make choices, and that kind of harkens back to the choose your own adventure books, which to go on the record, I never enjoyed those. I think that a book should reflect its author's wishes, or at least its author's sense of direction all the way through to the end. The idea that the reader can choose the way things go is, people say that it's a bad thing that a story is linear and they don't get to make choices, but they're just a passenger on that train. They should not get to choose the way that it goes, because let's face it, they're not a writer, and they're probably going to fuck up the whole thing. I hope that makes sense. It was a bit convoluted what I was trying to get across.
No, it makes sense. I mean, it's the same thing. Like when you talk, it's the same thing with movies. People are like, oh, what if we have a movie that choose your own adventure? It's like, well, that's kind of a video game in a way.
Yeah.
Or some sort of role-playing game or something. That's, choose your own adventure. If you want that, then go get it. Don't ask for another medium that's never been that to do that.
Mm-hmm. I always liked Final Fantasy games because they have at least reasonably well-developed characters in most cases, and they take it, they have planned stories and they take it through to the end, and I'm just a passenger, and I enjoy that sort of thing.
Yeah.
I can make choices about how their abilities stack up and, how awesome they are when they do whatever it is that they were preordained to do. But I'm not in control of who those people are, and I enjoy that.
So, now the question becomes the annual question we ask. Mike, is this the worst anime you've seen?
This season, yes. Without a doubt, this is going to be an unmitigated disaster if it keeps going at this pace.
It's the worst anime today!
Worst ever? No. I've seen too much bad stuff.
Worst this year compared to Supersonico and Wonder Momo and what was the others?
No. Those are a different plane of suckitude.
Sonico is like ages ago, even if it was this year. Don't bring that up.
Honestly, Sonico is probably still my choice for worst this year. That one has a special place in my heart.
That one has a special place in my do not watch list.
Yeah, that's why I watch these shows, so you guys don't have to.
It's great.
You like the pain. I don't.
No, I kind of do. I also like inflicting the pain on others through my bad anime nights.
Yeah, well, the fact that I'm not anywhere near you physically is a help in avoiding the bad anime nights. Otherwise, I probably would show up.
Just to say, like, what? It can't be that bad. Oh, God, it's bad.
It's so bad.
It's so horrible. Why? Why, Mike? Why?
It's like the internet. It's like, first you show us Garzy's Wing, and every single thing you've showed us afterward is somehow worse.
Garzy's Wing was the awesome kind of bad, though. That's the one that everyone can laugh at.
It's terror bad.
Yeah. I mean, the stuff I show these people would have most people say, I don't want to watch anime ever again.
It's kind of like anything that Bruce Campbell stars in. You gotta love it somehow.
Exactly. There's some endearing quality about it.
Garzy's Wing is definitely in that category. If only they had convenience stores in this fantasy world. You gotta wonder why the Ray Earth type shows didn't go there. It's like, God, if only I had a closet with clothes in it. If only I didn't have to wear the same thing over and over again. We could go home. I know I steered the story back to Clamp because it's funny. Well, I hope it's funny. For anybody that, has any idea who Clamp is. And if you don't, shame on you.
Oh, no worries. Anything you say can't possibly garner any more rage than what I did, so no worries there.
I think there was a Sailor Moon thing that we were supposed to talk about when we were talking about Sailor Moon.
That comes later. Don't worry, guys.
Okay.
We were talking about the shows we were watching.
Yeah.
Mike went on his
yeah.
I hated Persona.
Yeah. Well, anyway, going on.
Wait,
I
you say moving on, but did
moving away from
did any of the rest of us talk about what what we're
no,
watching?
I'm saying moving away from Persona.
Okay.
Okay. I mean,
Yeah, moving away from Persona.
Are you sure you want to do that? I mean, your rage is pretty pure right now.
I think we should. This is like, let's not poke the nine-tailed
Yeah.
fox.
Yeah, we should. I guess even though Mike definitely wants to keep talking about this, we should definitely.
Getting away from Persona. The only other shows I've had a chance to really catch this season so far have been Yamishibai 2, which kind of disappointed me because the episode that was on for the opener wasn't quite as visceral as the rest of the previous season. It didn't have that sheer creepiness that season 1 had. Like, even their not really scary stuff was unsettling. This one here was more goofy.
Anime seems to have a problem with horror in general. Like, most of what's called anime horror isn't horror at all, is what I mean.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Like, something like Vampire Miyu is called anime horror, and it's not horror.
No,
Not even a little bit.
not even close.
And Boogie Pop Phantom, that's another one. It's not really horror.
No, it's a fantastic show, but it's definitely not horror.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely love the show. It's, yeah, like you said. So, I'll shut up now.
All right. The only other show I've seen this season so far is Rail Wars, which I kind of went with fairly low hopes, but I was pleasantly surprised. It was surprisingly fun to watch at points. Production values are okay. The plot is just silly enough to work, and the characters are fairly charming. So I enjoyed it. Enjoyed what I saw.
Yeah, pretty much. The the subject matter is pretty much, I would say expositional. It's meant to cater to young boys who want to learn things.
Oh, definitely. Like, it seems like every time a train is mentioned, they start going over core concepts. Like,
Yeah.
the E6 line or something like that is like an electric train with 6 axles.
So it's an educational show, kind of, sort of.
Sort of.
Well, a lot of the shows are for boys are like that. Like there's like some of them. Well, a large number of them are about fighting, right? And they, there's people fighting, but there's also somebody on the sidelines explaining everything that's happening, right?
Right.
And this is definitely that kind of show.
It's like it's a general trope. You see it in everything from Dragon Ball to
Any show with fighting.
exactly. Yeah, it's the trope. I mean, in this case, it is kind of welcome because honestly, I'd be freaking lost because I know nothing about trains. So, in that sense, it does help. But yeah,
I find the very idea that that Japan has any trains at all that still run on steam is interesting. Because that would be sort of that would be sort of a unique situation if it's true. Because like I've been to Germany before, and they have most of their trains run on electricity, and I assume that Japan is the same way. They have wires all over the place, but in Germany, some of the trains that don't run on electricity run on diesel, and in America, the trains that don't run on electricity run on natural gas. So I find it interesting, if it's true, that there are still Japanese trains that run on coal.
I don't think there are any that run on coal. It was more just kind of one of those like over the top type of here's your final challenge, now surpass the type moments.
Yeah. No, that's definitely possible, but it's also possible that there are the occasional train that run on coal.
True. Anyway, that's about what I'm watching. How about you, Matt?
Other than that show, which I obviously watched, I also watched the first episode of SAO2, which I already shared. And beyond that, I watched the first Sailor Moon Crystal episode, which I already shared. So there's one thing left, I think. No, two things left. Shoot. It's been like one day. I can't remember. Okay. So I watched the first episode of Akame Got Kill, which I actually liked a lot. I have high hopes for the show. And I'm fairly excited to see where it goes.
That one's actually on my to-watch list. I'll probably be loading that up after we finish recording tonight.
Yeah, so the first episode kind of lays out what their thing is. There's a new character, which I've already forgotten his name, but it doesn't matter. So, new guy goes to the capital city from the country, so he's like a yokel, and you know, the very first thing that happens to him is that some girl takes advantage of him. He wants to join the military to make money and earn prestige for his hometown, and he just wants to earn money by performing exploits, you know, and bring prestige to his hometown. And he's like this big fighter. That one of the first things we see him do is slay a dragon, like, you know, willy-nilly. You know, like it's the sort of thing that he always does on the way to the capital. And some of the soldiers that witness him doing that, they're like, dude, you've seen nothing yet. You know, if you're going to the capital, that's where the real evil is. You know, that sort of thing. And he was supposed to arrive with a couple of his friends. You know, they were all traveling together but got separated, that sort of thing. So he arrives in the capital and he gets swindled, and like that's sort of a lesson for him. Whatever. But anyway, he befriends this girl who is just, you know, seems to be kind. She sees somebody sleeping on the street and wants to help him, right? That's the backdrop of this thing. But it actually turns out that she is luring him in, and by a stroke of luck, he sees through the whole ruse, and unfortunately his friends get caught in it, and it's a thing. So, you know, left with nothing, he decides to join this band of people who are out to fight evil and strike it down. So that's how it begins.
Interesting.
That is interesting.
Yeah, it was a bit long-winded what I was trying to say, but yeah, it's like you gotta wonder about the motives of this kid, but you know, because he has been suddenly deprived of everything he cared about, but at the same time, it's he seems to be fighting for the right side, and I'm interested to see where the other episodes go.
Oh, Max, we'll check that one out.
Definitely.
And let's see, what was the other show? Oh, everybody knows at this point, you know, who's listened to the podcast, that I'm a huge Production ID fan. I pretty much love almost everything they put out, at least initially. And Blue Spring Ride, or Ao Haru Ride, is a new show from them. It seems to be shoujo in nature, for teen girls or slightly older, and it's about so it starts with a girl getting caught in the rain, and she meets this boy, and you know, talks with him. So obviously she's in love with this boy for basically ever, because he actually talked to her, unlike apparently most Japanese boys would. And flash forward, she meets the boy in school, and he kind of like pretends he doesn't know her, but he really does. And there's all this, there's this bit of intrigue, and he helps her with a thing, and she's like all enamored with him again, and that's where it pretty much leaves out. I don't know what to think about a show yet, other than it's the usual like romance for girls crap. It may or may not be good. I have high hopes for the show because it's produced by Production IG. If there's any way that they can make it good, they definitely will. And I definitely like their art style for the thing. Like, the flashback portion is like, it's vaguely watercolor, but it's a little bit more, it's a little bit more like, sharp, I would say. Certain details are more sharp than others. And I definitely like watching that sort of thing. And there's a little bit of like, this is, there's a little bit of the technique of we're animating a manga. So there's sharp lines but soft colors, and that's kind of related to what I just said. So I like the way that they're drawing the thing. Other than that, I don't know. I was pensive about the show to begin with, but it's Production IG, so I think that if it's possible for it to be good, then it will be. So yeah, cool story, bro.
Well, moving on, I guess. Over the weekend of July 5th, we had a little event called Anime Expo. Not sure if anyone's heard of it. But it attracted just shy of 85,000 people this year. Now,
who would have thought in a city of almost 5 million people that there would be 85,000 that cared about anime?
I know, really. Anyway, a lot of news came out of this, to be honest. Almost 20 major news items, and over a dozen new title acquisitions, most of which going to one company, 4 dubcasts, and numerous streaming ads for Crunchyroll. I'd probably say the biggest news this weekend came from Sentai Filmworks, who announced that they got 8 titles for streaming and home video release. So, Akamega Kill, Argabolan, Glasslip, Ao How to Ride, or Blue Spring Ride, Invaders of the Rokujioma, Rail Wars, Sabagebu Survival Game Club, and I Couldn't Become a Hero, so I reluctantly decided to get a job, were all added to their lineup. This was absolutely massive, considering that pretty much no one had near that volume, and even Funimation only showed one title that weekend, which I do find kind of interesting, because Sentai's been licensing on overdrive lately. Like, this comes after their spring licensing binge, and shortly after AX, they announced several other titles that are coming under their lineup, which kind of reminds me of the old days, in kind of a bad way.
Well, the old days remind you of a bad way. I get it too. It's
too much too fast.
Well, maybe it is, maybe it isn't. The rate at which they're licensing kind of harkens back to the way that ADV did in the old days, as you say, and that is concerning in the sense that ADV was not able to produce on those licenses, and maybe it's unfounded fear. If Sentai is able to actually put these titles out, then it's no big deal. But if they're not, then it seems to be like the old days where they would just gamble and they wouldn't be able to deliver. But I don't know if it's probably too early to call it as, you know, this is the old days. They definitely they definitely have a licensing blitz, unlike anything that they've done even remotely recently. But I guess we'll just have to wait and see if they're able to put the titles out. And you know what my favorite thing is? That a lot of these titles are titles that Crunchyroll or somebody else picks up for streaming, and it's almost not a bad thing if Sentai is unable to find the funds to put these titles out, because the rest of us will be able to watch them legally before that inevitable failure.
True. Although I do actually kind of find it funny, though, because back in the days of ADV films, the biggest complaint about ADV was they'd license all these shows, then sit on them for 1-2 years at a time before even thinking about putting them out.
Yeah, if they even did at all.
They even did it all, yeah. And funny enough was, I was actually trolling some sources about this particular news because, I found it interesting. And I started seeing those very same arguments popping up around people. Like, there was actual legitimate dread that Sentai was getting these titles because they were pretty much saying that they were going to see this wait 6, 12, 14, 18 months before it even comes close to store shelves. I just thought it was kind of funny just seeing the comparison take place.
Well, nobody has any delusion that Sentai is basically ADV.
Oh.
True enough.
I mean, they pretty much scattered to the winds, and everybody knew that one of those companies that they split off to was going to be essentially the flagship going forward. And nobody's heard anything from Section 23 and Acer Films, or whatever it was called, or Acer Holdings, and Seraphim Studios, and all of, however many other companies that they split off to hide debts. Sentai is pretty much what's left. So it's pretty much the new ADV.
Yeah, and history definitely has a point of repeating itself, especially if you don't learn from it. I think that many fans might also be feeling that maybe that Sentai is just trying to be greedy, or that it's just trying to grab all the shows that it can, and if whatever show, and they're gonna see whatever sticks or whatever works or whatever popular, then they'll release it. It could be one of those things. But I think a lot of people, and especially industry people, would have liked to seen it more spread out amongst the companies. But I think that maybe Sentai had a little panic mode when Viz got Sailor Moon, and as we know, Viz already has a couple other big animes under their belt. They have two out of the 3 of the big 3, I believe, because I think Funimation still has One Piece. I'm not too sure on that. Someone will correct me.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah, they do.
Okay, but yeah, I think they might have went into panic mode, and instead of focus on quality, they went on quantity. So it could turn out bad, but you never know.
True.
Yeah, I mean, they've got some titles that are going to make them money. I think if a Akame ga Kill continues along its first episode streak, then it's going to be a good show and it will make them money. And they got No Game No Life as well, and that's gonna that's gonna definitely make them some money.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And if that's all, then it may be enough. It's hard to say. Their old tactic of tying up the licenses for everything that they possibly can is annoying to a lot of people. But as long as they put out all of those titles, then it's not going to be a problem. The problem was that they would tie up a million licenses and run out of money and not be able to put most of the things out.
Like Sergeant Frog or Gurren Lagann.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Other notable announcements at the convention were Right Stuff got a couple of truly offbeat titles. In particular, they got Yakitate Japan, which is a show about bread making, which is incredibly awesome. But it was a show that most people said this would never come out here, so it kind of snuck under a lot of people's radars. Plus, I got a Yondemasu yo Azazel-san, which is it's offbeat. It's definitely not the most PC of shows, but it is so funny. It's so funny. I'm really happy to see those two hitting shells finally. I probably lost you guys. I'm probably the only one that really cares about them, but anyway.
What? No, that's still good though. Every company should this Expos. Every company had something big, at least one thing big. If it's not a title, it's a cast. It's the casting. If it's not a casting, they're going to release something. So it's not bad to be excited about something.
Definitely. What I thought was cool was Funimation announced the dubcast for the Bayonetta movie. They actually were able to get 80% of the original game's cast for that, which was really cool because most people thought they'd be going strictly in-house for it, and it kind of led to worries among potential customers because, well, the game sold over 1 million copies, so... And they've got a game coming out in October, so people were wondering if there was going to be some consistency or something like that.
I think Yakitate is not a surprise in the sense that they it's a bigger show than something like Antique Bakery, but Right Stuff picked up Antique Bakery, so it's not a surprise that they would go after cooking shows.
True. Yeah, the other big news that came from it was we finally got a dubcast for Sailor Moon. And it's a lot of heavyweights. You got Stephanie Shea as Usagi, Christina V as Rei. You have some surprising faces in there though. Like you have Michelle Ruff actually doing the voice of Luna. That's a name I actually haven't seen in a long time.
Yeah, and you got Johnny Obash in there. And then they found a way to
that part's not a surprise.
Well, it is, especially when you consider who's the two most popular guys right now. It's between Bryce Pennenbrook and Todd Haneke, whatever, and he's in it, but Bryce is not, which is kind of refreshing. But Todd's in it. It was like, yeah, y'all trying to squeeze him in everything.
Yeah, but he's
Johnny Young Bosch showing up in anything is not surprising, is what I was trying to say.
He's in everything. But the thing is, even Todd Habercorn, he's only doing Jade, so it's not like he's going to be in every single scene. Thankfully, it's more of like he's the guy. He's definitely a prominent role, but it's nowhere to the degree of say like Queen Beryl or someone like that. Now, if Todd Habercorn did Queen Beryl, I would love to see that.
Oh my god. He could probably do it too.
He could probably pull it off. I mean, Queen Beryl would probably be more of like a Rocky Horror type character, but it would work.
Yeah, it's interesting that the creator of Sailor Moon actually picked these people out. That's another interesting thing, especially when you look at some people are very new and don't have much,
Mm.
But then you have others that have like, wait, there's a list upon list of how many characters they have played in it. Some
Mm.
memorable, some we've known and loved. So it's definitely interesting.
Yeah,
You have a mix of
she's quite involved in anything that goes on with her property.
Mm. Absolutely, which is it's good to see actually, because I mean,
Yeah, it can be both good and bad. It's hard to tell at times.
true. But I mean, like the only reason I say it's a good thing is because there are some shows where there's absolutely no involvement and it just kind of falls apart. The scenes dies out quickly. But
Yeah, well, the reason I say it can be both good and bad is because, she's a manga writer and she's obviously very talented at what she does, but she's not a film producer. She's not an animation producer,
true.
and I think I think back to cases like how Hideaki Anno butted heads with Masami Tsuda over his and her circumstances, and his trade is an animation director, and he's amazing at it. And I think personally, I think she should have just let him do what he does, and as long as he wasn't like grossly misinterpreting her property, which I don't think he ever did. Yeah, everything should have been fine with her, because it's not her trade, and that's kind of where I fall on that spectrum.
Mm.
Yeah, that's a good thing.
True.
I'm pretty sure maybe some of the Viz people advised her or had a suggestion of someone that might be good or might be better for this versus that, or maybe better to play a role versus playing this character. So maybe hopefully they had some say. Maybe not. You don't know.
Yeah. Well, I'm not even going to suggest that somebody who writes manga for a living can't direct an anime. It's certainly not that far of a stretch, but I would like to think that that would be an unusual quality.
True.
Because it tends to be like there's a lot of people who write books and want to be involved somewhat in the movie adaptation of their work, but a lot of them, I want to say most of them, realize that film is not their medium, and they want the director to that they want to give the director the freedom that he or she needs to bring their work to life, because that's what they do.
Yeah.
True.
Fully agreeable. But we will see when that trailer first hits. I think the flood will come. I'll just say that.
Definitely. And pre-orders for the show opened the day after that the announcement went live, which it's going to be a nice set. It's going to be 3 Blu-rays, a chipboard box, and an 88-page art book. So it's going to be a really nice set.
Ooh, nice.
Sounds good.
And is it going to be one episode to disc, or is it going to be like at least maybe 4 episodes to disc?
This isn't Blue Sub 6. It's not.
Yeah.
It's not $120 for 4 episodes.
First one's going to be first that's going to be the first 23 episodes. Here we go. It's going to be $79.98, but you can get it for much less at this point. Like average pre-order price around $50.
So $80 for a season, roughly.
Yeah.
And some extra stuff.
That's not too bad.
Nah, that's
even especially by older prices, that's actually pretty good. By today's prices, that's a little bit high, but not like grossly high.
I like Aniplex high.
Yeah, I mean you can get it for, like I said, you can get it for about $50 for the first set already. So
Aniplex High would be about $200.
No, Aniplex High would be $400.
Not for a TV show.
For Sailor Moon, dude.
It's still a TV show.
Dude, Gurren Lagann was like $500.
Yeah, okay, I get your point.
If it's big enough, they would charge it.
Wow, Gurren Lagann is not worth $500.
No, it's not. But that's how much. That's how much they got for it. It
Like
was a five.
even something like Sailor Moon, I could see some people thinking it's worth that much, but not Gurren Lagann. It just isn't.
Well, to be fair, it was 200. It was Gurren Lagann was $200 on DVD. But the Blu-ray release was like, yeah, it was like $400 or something like that.
I mean, the second half of Gurren Lagann is like actually a new show, and those 13 episodes are worth more than maybe the first half, which is pretty much a retelling of Melody of Oblivion in half as many episodes.
Oh yeah, so anyone that's never seen it, watch Melody of Oblivion. It's great.
Watch it now. Stop now and watch.
Yeah,
Okay,
I'm not
okay,
saying
so-
that Melody of Oblivion is like 100% awesome. It's made by Gainax, so it has its moments where Gainax is doing their Gainax thing.
Definitely.
But overall, it's a really terrific show.
All right. I think we've exhausted this topic.
I don't even know what the topic is.
We were talking in AX News, like the big stuff.
Yeah.
I think we nailed the major ones because everything else is like
This is the let's see how many times we can bring up Sailor Moon episode.
pretty much.
Yeah,
Well, unfortunately, that's like the
Now it's
big,
time for the next one.
oh my god, yes. Damn.
Let's see. All right. Moving on. Our next news item tonight is well, we've all seen Sailor Moon, Sailor Moon Crystal, as we kind of noted earlier, but apparently over 1 million others have as well. Anime News Network reported that the series premiere garnered over 1 million views within its first 2 days. This is only on the Nico Nico video service.
Yeah, one of the things I was going to mention is I'm curious what Crunchyroll's views have been, and Hulu's too. It's not showing up in just one place.
Right. It doesn't include Neonally, Hulu, or Crunchy. So I did a little bit of sleuthing. I couldn't get exact numbers. The only thing I could really find was positioning, unfortunately, which doesn't help much in that regard. But on Neon Alley, it's the number 2 most watched program just prior to our recording. On Hulu, it made page 10 of Popular Today, number 4 for Popular This Week, and page 8 of Popular This Month. So it definitely garnered a good audience. Unfortunately, without any real insight, I can't say exactly how many, but people are definitely tuning in for this.
I'll admit, I don't know what else is available on Neon Alley.
Pretty much anything Viz offers is on Neon Alley.
And dubs, lots of dubs.
Yeah,
Yeah.
which is really nice for dub fans.
Well, I mean, I think I like to think that. I mean, when I think Viz, I think Naruto, Death Note, and Bleach, and well, now Sailor Moon. Whatever else there is, I think I don't really know about, and I wouldn't say I don't care about it. Obviously, if it's something I could be interested in, I do. But what else is there other than what I mentioned?
They actually have a lot of titles. They have like off the top of my head, they have Nana. They have Rama One Half, Copelion on there. Renee's Flower Lagrange. They have a lot of stuff on there.
Is Rama the only is Rama the only Takahashi title they have currently? I mean,
aside from Inuyasha, yeah.
Oh, well.
I know on the manga side they have a lot of the major big shonen pieces. I think they have all the big 3. As far as the manga side is concerned, they have the big 3 because it shows up in Shonen Jump every week, and some of the other bigger titles. like One Piece and.
I find that interesting that we've had some other like competitors to them in the sense of trying to have a weekly or monthly shonen release for manga, and the others have not done so well, and I wonder if Viz really makes money on that stuff.
To be honest, they just might because unlike the other ones, they have the benefit of being a child company of Shueisha and Shogakukan, so they have a lot more access than, say, Raijin Comics did.
And there's the fact that they had some of the most popular shows that are both airing, and then older shows. Yeah, and they do have Blue Extras. I just checked. Yep, it's under them. So yeah, they, like I said, they have a lot of the big major shonen titles. So that's probably only on that.
But do they still call it Shonen Jump?
Yes, they do.
Yeah,
I see.
It's
okay, so that does pretty well. I didn't actually know.
Yeah, and their streaming backlog it's incredibly extensive. Like they have the stuff I mentioned. Plus, they have stuff like Tiger and Bunny. They have Excel World, which is doing fabulously for them because it's from the creator of Sword Art. But then they do get some of the stuff from, say, Aniplex. Like, I know for a while they did run stuff like Blue Exorcist and the like, which definitely rounds out their library.
Yeah.
Yep, they are still streaming Blue Exorcist.
For something like Blue Exorcist, they're not the only ones who have that in their library.
Not at all, but it does help round out that selection. It rounds out that back catalog. Because the problem with, say, Funimation.com is the fact that all they show is stuff from Funimation, which on paper is not a bad idea, but
it's kind of impressive the number of titles that they have available to them.
God, yeah. Oh god, yeah. I'm not denying that, but at the same time, it's one of those things where it's like, with, say, Neon Alley, they're kind of trying to become a more inclusive platform that kind of works within the framework. It's actually kind of interesting, the logic behind it, because this started off as basically a linear feed, if you remember correctly. So to see them morph into something like this, where they're not only showing their own product, but they're also getting stuff from Aniplex, from some of these other licensors, it's really impressive.
Because it's almost like, if you've spent a whole day shopping on Akiba and you roped in a teenage girl to go to a love hotel.
Oh man, oh my god.
Oh my goodness.
Okay. I'm just shooting from the hip here, not literally.
Okay. What were we talking about? Oh yeah, Sailor Moon. 1 million views.
Yeah.
It's impressive.
It is impressive. It really shows how much pull that brand has still.
And it makes you wonder, like, how many views are of unique visitors and how many are repeat? I'm pretty sure it's probably well over 1 million now. Yeah. It's probably at least maybe 10 million.
Well, even if a large number of people view it 5 times, that's still a pretty respectable number.
Oh, it is.
No doubt.
I'm sure any company would be thrilled to have a show that does that. I mean, that's just insane. That's like normal TV streaming numbers.
Yeah, it's definitely it makes you consider the genre in as a whole, and for a lot of different reasons, all of the other magical girl shows don't command those kinds of numbers, and it's Sailor Moon is definitely interesting in the sense that it does.
Absolutely.
And especially to bring out some of the other more recent magical girl shows, most notably Madoka Magica, known as the darker side, and probably one of the best that have came out in the past 5 years or even decade. And yet that couldn't even pull numbers like this, or even get close to numbers like this, especially in the short amount of time.
Well,
Crystal has.
the problem with Madoka Magica 2 is that it wasn't designed as to be a mainstream title. I mean, this is I am going to butcher this name, but because I always do. This is again this is again Urabuchi show. I mean, this is basically this is made to be kind of a deconstruction of the magical girl genre, but it's also made. There's also some very heavy otaku pander elements in it, so it kind of scares away those edge cases, like those. It kind of panders to the edge cases, and it scares away a large portion of the middle that are just looking for the standard experience. I mean, it's still fantastic. I'm not gonna lie, but I can definitely see why it doesn't pull in the same viewer base.
Yeah, true that. That's definitely that. But it's still quite amazing, especially for a show that hasn't appeared on air in both America or Japan for years.
Yeah, well, it's a reboot, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of the same thing as all of the comic book movies that have at this point, I would say, plagued us in America for the last 10 years. It's like everything is a reboot. Even after 5 years, it's like, oh, time to reboot that again. It's like, oh, CG is so cheap now. Let's do it again and again and again.
Comic industry is actually an interesting one because going back to the early days, like the Golden Age, they used to pretty much just repeat the same storylines over and over again, with the logic being that even if they repeat it at regular intervals, there's going to be people that have never read the stories that kind of are just jumping in, so they can get into a common starting point.
And that's totally valid.
Oh, yeah,
I know that a lot of the well established rock bands will do that. They will play their old stuff and go on tour, pretty much doing that in the hopes and expectation that all of the people that haven't heard their stuff live before will fall in love with them, and they'll have an increase in the number of fans.
Absolutely.
So I definitely get the sentiment, and it actually works. You know, there's nothing wrong with it.
And I think the only difference between this reboot and most other reboots is that there is a sense of almost love and genuine like for the show. Like, okay, we're getting a second chance. We're gonna do this right, and we're gonna try. We won't be able to please everybody, but we're gonna do the best we can.
We're gonna update it for modern times and make the girls look more anorexic to mirror how actual fashion models look. No, I'm kidding a little bit, but that was one of the things that have popped up as complaints about the new Sailor Moon.
Yeah, they're too thin, but I mean, if you go back to the original books, they look just like that, which is kind of funny. But yeah, I mean, honestly, the more common complaint I've seen, aside from that, was the general toning down of the expressiveness. You don't get that same over the top reaction most of the time, which was off-putting for a lot of people.
Yeah, but I think they were just probably trying to go a different direction, even for that.
Yeah, because sorry,
I'm sorry. They probably thought maybe to a lot of folks that would be annoying, but so they were like, okay, let's cut down these things seem annoying. Let's cut down on these things.
Well, a lot of it actually stems from the fact that the over-the-top expressions and stuff like that were not there in the original work. They were actually put in by director Kunihiko Ikuhara, who took a lot of liberties, which arguably did help the show in the end, but we'll save that for another day. And since this is going more towards a 100% faithful adaptation, it went against the grain. It had to be nixed.
Mm.
So I can kind of see both sides of the fence there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would fall on the side of I do not support any 100% faithful adaptation of any manga. Almost period.
True.
Yeah.
Because why would I ever go back and read the manga if the show shows me exactly the same thing?
True.
Yeah, true. Especially with some shows that take the exact thing from the manga and go as long and take that storyline that's long in the manga and take it in the show and just make it long.
And I've seen it even happen in triplicate. Like, I watched a show that I actually really liked a lot, Basilisk. And it's based on a manga of the same name, which is in turn based on a novel, which is actually kind of old. But anyway, the Koga Ninja Scrolls, that was the name of the novel. So the Koga Ninja Scrolls is kind of a Romeo and Juliet story about ninja clans instead of like warring Italian families. It's kind of the similar thing, and it kind of ends in a similar way. The only real difference in this case is that the royal authority in the matter is kind of the one pulling the strings, instead of just being sort of an innocent bystander. But anyway, it's Romeo and Juliet. And the first thing I ever did was watch the Basilisk show, which I really enjoyed it. And then I went back and read the novel, and I was almost shocked at the degree to which the anime follows the novel. It's almost like, I wouldn't say word for word, but it's pretty damn close. Like, there were no surprises. There was nothing new reading the novel after watching the show, and I'm not used to that degree of faithfulness. You know, everybody wants an adaptation to be faithful to the original work, but I don't think anybody really wants that. You know, yeah. Nobody wants to have no surprises left for them if they go back and experience the original work.
Yeah, I think that was the case for Fullmetal Alchemist, where you had something that went the first anime show, the first series, went completely off the rails, had a different ending, different plot, different reasons for why things existed, while the manga was a whole different storyline altogether. And in some way, that actually made it feel like, oh, this is two different almost two different interpretations of the same type of story. And that actually made me go back and read Fullmetal Alchemist manga and know that it's completely different. I'm like, oh, really? Whereas something like Naruto, it's almost like I don't watch the show, but I would read the manga, but I won't watch the show because it's like it's the same thing. With filler, I'm not going to sit there and watch the same thing that I just read.
Yeah, exactly. Isn't it better if it's different? Because it's a different perspective on the same characters and roughly the same story. I really like that. I don't like seeing the same thing in two different mediums. I don't think I ever will.
It feels redundant.
Because it is.
Exactly.
It's like, it's like you either too scared of the fans yelling and screaming at you for changing things, or you're just too lazy to actually change something.
Yeah. Well, and I think there's a third option that the original or that the creator of the original work, or the author, or whatever, won't let it happen. And that kind of harkens back to what we were talking about earlier, that I think if the creator gets in the way of an adaptation being the best it can be, I think that's a problem, and it's unfortunate.
Yeah. But show got 1 million views. It'd be impressive how many views this show gets as it goes along, especially with this every other week type of standing instead of the usual every single week.
I'm predicting it's gonna start strongly, but by episode 4, you're probably gonna start seeing that standard drop off start to occur. Because even people in the industry can tell you, after a certain point, you start seeing it just kind of drop off to the end, where a fraction of your initial audience kind of remains and sticks through it. This was actually a big problem during the singles days, because you'd have tons of people rushing to buy volume 1, but by the time volume 7 came out, there was like maybe 200, if that.
Good gracious.
Yeah. As much as I hated their practices at the time, Viz was pretty smart about that. They would increase or decreasingly set their numbers for release for each volume to the point where they thought they could actually sell them all. But I say I hate it because I found out a little bit late that I really loved My Son Ikoku, and it was late enough that there was no availability for the rest of the stuff that I would have bought up, like it was going out of style, but it was already out of style.
Like me, I found the first 2 volumes pretty easily, but after that, the price starts going up on a factorial level.
Yeah.
Not even exponential, factorial. It's like volume 2 was like 35, volume 3 was 105, volume 4 was, and it just kept going up.
Well, and the fans of that show were even a little bit lucky in the sense that Viz actually put out all of the show.
Yeah, I mean,
whereas a show like Full Moon, which admittedly it's pretty long, it's like 52 episodes, and who buys a show that long? Period in America. But I really loved it, and it's unfortunate that they didn't go very far with it and they just cut it off. But I understand their viewpoint. It wasn't selling, and it probably never would. It's hard to sell shows, and especially magical girl shows. I mean, Sailor Moon is special in that sense that anybody who picks up Sailor Moon gets noticed, and they don't have to do any marketing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it kind of markets itself.
Oh yeah, the feedback loop's already in place with thousands upon thousands of fans. It was the quintessential Blue Ocean product because it was able to pull in the people that are the diehards, and it just rippled out to the general market.
Yeah, well, I think the general market kind of has an inkling about that, about the importance of that show too. It's generally Blue Ocean is like it's people that you have to reach out to, right? But this show has such fame and is so well established that I think they probably didn't really have to reach out to anybody.
Well, at the time of its initial release, it did not. That's what I was getting at.
Sure, but it's been a long enough time.
Oh yeah, nowadays it's not. I mean, we have not seen that come for a long time, come in ages. I think the last one that would come close is Spirited Away when it won the Oscar.
Yeah. Is it time for a segue?
Yeah, that was the segue.
Speaking of Oscars.
Speaking of Studio Ghibli and Oscars, Hayao Miyazaki and Toshio Suzuki of Studio Ghibli were invited to join the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences Oscars Academy. Now, previously, Miyazaki's been invited 3 times over, but he declined all 3 times. Suzuki mentioned that he thinks it means his retirement's near, which, considering that Miyazaki still hangs out at Studio Ghibli all day, to the point where he's actually looking into the meeting room with this like forlorn look, I can kind of believe that. I'm not sure if you guys have seen that photo circulating, but it's hilarious.
Well, the way the end story describes it is he does not seem to be glad with it because it means his retirement is near. Was the last time he was invited in 2006.
That is true.
So it is significant in the sense that it sounds like he's accepted his retirement and he doesn't mind taking on the honorary role of being part of the Academy. And I don't know what else to say other than that. It at least it seems that he's done making movies, but maybe not. It's hard to tell. I think somebody like him, if he's inspired to take part in another project, he will, as long as he's alive.
Absolutely.
He seems like one of those directors, but it would be nice for at least one of these guys, at least one, to join the board. Especially since I don't really think, besides anything Studio Ghibli, I don't think we're going to see any big animation or anime movie come out of Japan and be an Oscar contender, especially if Disney's really going through this resurgence as everyone believes and says they are. Then it's going to be a hard fight for any anime movie, but it would be nice just to get a different viewpoint on that board, especially considering the years past of who won, especially in the animation division, of who have won for the past couple of years. Where a division where Pixar won just because it was Pixar, with Brave, a film that was, while not panned, was definitely not well received as other films. And having films like Cars 2, The Cruise, and some other anime films that were okay but not great get nominated.
It's interesting you mentioned Pixar because I wonder how much the influence of John Lasseter is on the Academy's decision to invite Miyazaki to their ranks all those times. Because the two of them are at least reported to be friends, and Lasseter is well respected, obviously, with the number of awards that his films have received.
And he doesn't hide the fact that he respects Miyazaki highly.
Yeah, and who wouldn't?
Yeah. Especially
even if they weren't, even if they weren't friends or so they say, it really wouldn't. Any animator should be respectful of Miyazaki's works because he's a giant.
No question.
Definitely.
No question at all.
It'll be interesting to see if he actually takes the position this time.
Well, that's what I'm interested in, because if he is comfortable considering himself as a retired filmmaker, then I don't see any reason why he wouldn't. Unless there was any kind of bad blood with the Academy, and I don't think he's that kind of person, to be honest.
Well, maybe it interrupts his looking into offices time.
It's like, but he wants to keep looking. He wants to keep spying on what they're doing at the studio.
Well, it's being a member of the Academy. You receive a ballot you receive a ballot in the mail, and you vote every year. It's not like it's that big of a commitment. I mean, if you consider anybody who's even remotely successful, they wind up on the boards of several different companies, and it's not like they don't. It's not like they have to be there all the time. They just have to vote when anything important happens.
Yeah. I'm trying
So
to.
I think this is that sort of thing that I in his shoes, I think I would do it. Just to have an influence over, maybe his vote matters in the sense of what's considered good animation. There aren't that many people who get to vote for Oscar-winning movies in any category. So it matters. That's
Absolutely.
all I wanted to say.
Absolutely, and honestly, having two members of Studio Ghibli on here could really change the way that kind of outlook on certain titles, because they have a completely different perspective on the matter.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Especially, I'm trying to see how many animated films just came out, especially notable ones this year. The only thing I see this big one, it's How to Train Your Dragon 2, and yeah, that's it. And a couple of others coming later in the year, like Big Hero 6. But no, I don't think that's coming out this year though. But yeah, this is like only 2 or 3 I can think of nearly off the top of my head.
Yeah. Well, and they mentioned that Jennifer Lee and Peter Del Vecchio from Frozen were also invited, which Frozen was a very well received movie, so that makes sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think Miyazaki in particular, like I think of all of the movies that he's made and that I've seen, and just he's a very sentimental type, and I think I don't know what I'm trying to say, but he definitely has his own opinions on what is good animation and what isn't, and he's even written at length about it. And I will be very interested to see if anything new gets attention because of him.
Absolutely, it could really lead to some interesting insights from that end of things.
I really hope he does. Pick it up, go. Yep, I'm coming. I'm doing it.
All right, and I think we've kind of reached the end of this thread here.
Yay!
The Valkyrie has cut the thread.
The
The thread is dead.
All right, everyone, that's our show.
No, it isn't.
Tough shit.
I want to watch Porco Rosso again. Right now.
Porco Rosso is so good.
That is, without a doubt, my favorite Miyazaki movie. I like a lot of the Miyazaki movies. I won't lie. But the early ones, and I'm going to I would catch flack for this, but not so much the early ones. I mean, Totoro is a great kids movie, but I wasn't a kid when I watched it. Laputa was good, but I don't know, kind of the same thing. It was really interesting, the visual style. Nausicaa, I didn't like it all because I had read the extensive comic version of Nausicaa first.
Yeah.
And so probably the earliest Miyazaki movie that I actually like is Kiki's Delivery Service, and I absolutely love it.
I adore that.
Yeah, I didn't. When I first saw Kiki's Delivery Service, I was like 6, 7 years old. I didn't know it was a Miyazaki movie until what was that? No, it wasn't Toonami. I think it was someone else referred me.
Nice. That's a good way to do it.
Yeah. So yeah, that's a good one. I think, but the first one I genuinely remember of him, the one I was trying to go out in theaters just to see, was Spirited Away. I was also fairly young. I was kind of young for that one.
Yeah. I absolutely loved Spirited Away.
Because that was the big one for everyone. Almost, was it?
Yeah,
Like
it's pretty. I guess it's pretty early considering nowadays. I think if I had seen Kiki's Delivery Service or Totoro, and earlier than that, then I would have really loved it. But Spirited Away was the first Miyazaki. Well, I won't say that. Princess Mononoke was the first Miyazaki movie that I really, really latched onto, and it was also, at the same time I knew it was Miyazaki. I knew it was Japanese, and it just had such interesting. It had characters that made sense in a Western perspective. Like the main character herself and her male counterpart and the mother wolf and all that stuff. But it also had stuff like the kodamas, which are definitely Japanese creations, and it was just cool. And Spirited Away was definitely like it was different from looking from a Western perspective, but it was other than like the details of the spirits that appeared and the whole setting. It was understandable from Western perspective, and I just loved every bit of it.
There was another one I saw of his. No, I just found it. Little Nimoy, Adventures in Plumberland. I don't think that was his. Yeah, I don't saw him as a director, but it was the Studio Ghibli one that I also saw when I was younger. Didn't know it was under his, under his company until I got older and found out. And that was another one. I watched a lot of his stuff when I was young and didn't know who it was.
That one sounds interesting. I don't know. I don't think I've seen that, but I've seen actually quite a few. Like, I don't have a lot of knowledge of the latest anime, even going back a few years. So, like a lot of what I say is definitely tentative. Like I don't really know, but the Ghibli/Ghibli stuff, I definitely have seen quite a lot of. I've seen the I've seen the stuff even that Miyazaki and what's his name? I'm having a brain fart right now. The Grave of the Fireflies guy.
Oh.
I know it starts with a T. I'm having a brain fart.
Someone's yelling it right now. Like they're yelling at the top of their lungs. Oh my goodness. Okay.
Seriously, this is pretty embarrassing because I've seen all of those movies.
Okay, I have the name, but I'm going to pronounce it wrong. It's Asoa Takahara.
Takahara, that's it. Anyway, I really like his movies too. Like even a movie that he made pre-Ghibli, Ghost the Cellist. That was really good. I enjoyed it, and I also enjoyed his what is it called? Wow, I'm having a really hard time tonight.
I think we're all having
Omoide no Poroporo, Drops of Memories. I don't know what the English variant was called. That was pretty good. Let's see, Takahara. He also did Yamada, My Neighbors the Yamadas. I really liked that, but now I'm just sort of showing off that I actually watch these things.
Dude, you're the only person I know that's seen
I
Umigapiko.
I love that movie. I honestly love it. It's a high school like sentimental movie. It's about two people who sort of like they had that romantic tension in high school, but didn't really make it happen. And the movie is set in the near future, and I really love that movie.
I can't comment. I've never seen it because it's only import.
Yeah, I actually imported and paid for it.
Hmm.
And now I'm not sure that I'm capable of watching it. I don't have any R2 DVD players that work right now.
You can always. It's not that hard to hack a DVD player though.
Yeah, I know, but
Especially now that they got friggin' SD card slots built into them. You can self mod pretty easily.
I would watch that tonight if it weren't like a significant effort.
An effort.
But probably my favorite of Ghibli is ironically not Miyazaki, not Takahata, but they're the two movies that were scored by Yuji Nomi. They are Whisper of the Heart and The Cat Returns. I absolutely love those movies. I can't even express how much I love those movies. And a large part of that is the music, which is why I mentioned the composer.
Total eclipse of the heart. Okay. There.
All right, extra points go to you if you can tell me who wrote that song, or who performed that song. I mean,
I know. Wasn't the performer the one who sung that Bonnie Tyler? I don't remember who was the person around him.
yeah, it was Bonnie Tyler. Nice job.
Gold star.
Oh my goodness.
We're all gonna watch Ghibli movies tonight, or at least we should.
Or tried to. Or just look up the history and go like, oh yeah, I remember that. I remember seeing that when I was little.
Yeah, seriously, all the way up until Howl's Moving Castle, every single Ghibli movie is worth watching. And past Howl's, I would say they're still worth it. It's just, a little bit debatable.
Yeah. Howl's. Even though I did like Howl's, I did own it for a little while. I did like that one. Ponyo. And I know Ursa, tells them Ursa and Ponyo was the disappointing ones.
Well, Ursi, the problem was it wasn't. It was Goro Miyazaki's first movie.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Earthsea was the first. Yeah, like Mike says, it was the first one where they brought in a new director, and he's Miyazaki's son, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
He wasn't. From what everybody says, it's obviously he wasn't confident about his ability to do the thing. Even though his father was this sort of god of animation, but his profession was landscaping. He wasn't a film director. But I think I want to say everybody said his second movie, or the second movie he worked on, was significantly better.
That was from Up on Poppy Hill, wasn't it?
Yep, it was.
I have to get that still. I've heard so many good things about it.
I actually have it, but haven't seen it.
I've never seen it. Oh, I didn't even know that was a Ghibli movie. Wow. Okay.
Yeah. Well, if you ever want to know what they've made and what they haven't, go to Nausicaa.net.
Yep.
They're still the authoritative English source on everything Ghibli.
Mm-hmm. Big time.
Nice.
I really love Nausicaa, the manga. The movie is just okay. Yeah,
awesome.
seriously, like it's such a long form story, and a lot happens, and it's all significant. It's if you can find the comic, it's definitely worth it.
Also, I don't. It doesn't look like he ever made a sequel besides that. What was that one? The one that Lupin movie. I know they produced a Lupin movie, and I think he was the director on it.
Castle
Yeah,
Cagliostro.
that wasn't Ghibli, but Castle of Cagliostro. I
Yep.
loved that movie.
That was basically like,
I've watched several other Lupin movies, and that one is still by far the best.
oh god, yeah. There's very little denying
It's
that.
so good.
And it is one of the good things to note is that he does not. Well, he may repeat, he does not have any sequels under his belt, which I don't know if you can almost say that's a good or bad thing.
Yeah, he has some TV series, like he did the Sherlock Hound,
Future Boy Conan,
and yeah,
which apparently is literally impossible to license according to the guy from Anime Souls.
Shit.
Like he asked and they shut him down right away
It's like, can we get this? No.
because it's Hayao Miyazaki, Isao Takahata, and music by Shinichiro Ikebe. I mean, it's like the all-star film there. I mean, all-star TV series.
if you get a chance to watch Goshu the Cellist, it's really good. Definitely do it. Even if you, well, I wouldn't advocate finding it by,
Yoho yoho.
finding it on the internet. But I would, but I wouldn't. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I get it. Like,
That's another one of those shows that it seems like it would be.
It's 45. It's like it's a 45 minute movie. It's it's very simplistic in nature. It's a fable about a guy who's like having trouble being the best he can be, and like woodland animals and shit help him through it. It's a very charming story. As far as Takahata goes, his crowning achievement is the Don't Tell Me, I know this, Graveyard of the Fireflies.
That was his opus for sure.
Yeah, it's
so-
definitely like it's heart wrenching, it's crushing, and it's brilliant.
I mean, that's one. If you're in a good mood, that movie's gonna depress the shit out of you.
Yeah,
that's what
do not watch that movie if you're in a good mood.
I'm so happy that I'm gonna watch Grave of the Firefly.
It's so good, but so soul breaking.
But after that, he did My Neighbors the Yamadas, and I honestly I laughed through most of that movie. It's so good.
I love that. It was so funny. It was great.
And Omoide Poro Poro it's good, but I don't know. I couldn't relate to it at the time. It's an older woman going to the country, and she finds, I don't know, purpose or something. It seemed like that kind of story, and not only was I not an older woman at the time, I was also not an older man. So it just seemed it was a bit of a drag for me. I didn't get the sentiment, but I enjoyed it for what it was. I just couldn't relate to it.
Yeah, it wasn't for you.
Yeah. Now, in 5 years, I wouldn't be surprised if I could relate to it then, but even now, I'm not sure. I think right now I would still love something like Spirited Away more. and Yamada's, just because it's, you know,
Funny.
family tensions are funny. They just are.
Well, yeah, that's why The Simpsons worked for so long.
So, I know I'm about to hang up and watch my favorite Ghibli movies.
All right, so I guess now is a good point to close out the episode. All right.
Yeah.
All right, that's our
Right.
our show, everyone. Thanks for joining.
Good show, you guys. I really enjoyed it tonight.
Definitely had a lot of fun tonight.
Best show
Oh.
ever. Well,
And I hope all you guys enjoyed listening to us as well. Anyway, till next time, I'm Mike Ferris signing off.
I'm Matt Barron.
and I'm
Also
Dorian.
signing off.
And I'm Dorian retreating to his basement. Oh wait, I don't have a basement. Never mind.
What's a basement? I'm from Florida, by the way.
And as always, you can subscribe to us on iTunes, Stitcher, and Blueberry. Subscribe to us, give us a rating; it really helps. Have a great night, everybody.
Ciao.
Sayonara.
Saya Chower.